The Ukrainian army is advancing westward on the western side of the main forces in the Kursk region, approaching the railway line between Koronevo and Koronivo. Last week, the Ukrainian forces occupied the northern pocket of the two large pockets prepared in Kursk after the Russian troops withdrew. In the remaining southern pocket, Russian troops stationed in the three villages on the map are facing a pincer movement from Ukrainian forces. If the Russian troops do not retreat, they risk being encircled. To the west of the main forces, another Ukrainian unit is advancing northeast, extending to St. Glushkovo. The main Ukrainian forces in the east have captured Pavanasovka, 7 kilometers east of there. If the Ukrainian forces succeed in sealing the gap between these two villages, the Russian troops inside the pocket will be completely surrounded. West of the main forces, Ukraine's 8 special forces are expanding westward along the border into the areas of Volfino and Dyabursky. They used FIV drones, mortars, and robot dogs equipped with machine guns to eliminate multiple Russian soldiers, forcing the remaining troops to retreat. The robot dogs withstood attacks from enemy drones and RPGs. At the southern end of Krasnoktybursky, the 8th Special Forces used dragon drones to drive Russian troops out of their positions. On the northern front of Kursk, the Russian 810th Naval Infantry Brigade successfully entered some small villages during early counterattacks in August. Ukrainian forces have expelled most of the Russian troops, but some remain. The Russians have attempted to deliver ammunition and supplies to these villages, and the Ukrainians have ambushed these supply operations multiple times. In the eastern area of Kursk, the Russian Arbat Battalion remains operational in the southern part of the front line, operating between Borky and Spalno, forcing some Ukrainian troops to retreat. Back on the Ukrainian battlefield at the Siversk front, a Russian soldier stayed in a trench for an entire week without food and water, miraculously surviving several drone strikes. Later, he crawled out and requested to surrender. A Ukrainian Key 2 battalion drone operator with the call sign Steyr dropped painkillers, water, and a note with instructions to him. During his crossing, Russian artillery tried to kill him, but he was extremely fortunate and eventually reached Ukrainian positions successfully. In the Pokrovsk direction, Russian forces have made some progress in Hordivka. Further south, 30 kilometers away in Hostry, Ukrainian forces repelled an attack by 46 Russian vehicles last week but failed to hold their positions this week. The Russian forces dispatched 52 vehicles, launched 24 attacks, and lost 17 armored vehicles and 72 soldiers. Additionally, the nearby village of Georgievka has also been captured by Russian forces. In this direction, Ukraine's Meta-Tactical Battalion is deploying reconnaissance robot dogs via drones. In the Vula direction, Russian forces have captured Mine No 3, but Ukrainian forces successfully thwarted Russian attempts to advance from the west of Vuhletter. In addition, Russia's overall situation is deteriorating. Reports from the Kremlin indicate that after an explosion in a Sarmat missile silo, Putin urgently ordered the new Minister of Defense to procure nuclear weapon components. However, these components were originally designed and produced by Ukraine, and the Russian military now has no way to obtain them. Moreover, the old nuclear warheads and missiles have reached their decommissioning age, and new missiles cannot be tested due to the lack of critical components. Even the reliability of nuclear weapons on Russian submarines is now in question. Meanwhile, Ukrainian forces have attacked multiple large weapon and ammunition depots within Russia, destroying most of the ammunition reserves that were planned for use from October to December this year. In southern Ukraine, Russian troops are continuously being redeployed to Kursk, directly weakening the defenses of Zaporizhia and Kherson. Ukrainian intelligence has learned that the Russian military plans to destroy the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and then retreat in the fourth quarter, attempting to create a nuclear crisis. Ukraine plans to retaliate in kind. Heavy rocket units have already targeted the Kursk nuclear power plant, ready to strike it if any incident occurs at Zaporizhia, and plan to cut off the power supply to more than 10 states south of Moscow. Meanwhile, Ukrainian heavy artillery units have arrived in Kursk, indicating that a large-scale offensive is imminent. Former British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has proposed a new plan for Ukraine to join NATO in stages. The parts of Ukraine not occupied by Russia can join first and enjoy the military umbrella, and then apply for the occupied territories to join once they are recovered. This sounds quite pragmatic, as it can provide Ukraine with some security assurance and allow it to gradually reclaim lost territories. Following this approach, Ukraine can not only significantly enhance its defensive capabilities, but also leave some diplomatic maneuvering room in its dealings with Russia. However, it's not enough for Johnson to just propose it. This matter requires agreement and signatures from all parties to come to fruition, and there will be no shortage of fierce negotiations at the bargaining table. Vovchansk, Ukraine's capture aggregate plant. Vovchansk has been under siege for nearly 5 months, bombed into a masterpiece of destruction, especially the northern part, its ruins upon ruins. The Russians were banking on 2 key strongholds, the high-rise known as the Citadel and the gravel plant. Unfortunately for them, the Citadel was blasted to smithereens, and becoming a castle in the air, the surrounding buildings are so riddled with holes there's nowhere left to hide. So, the aggregate plant became their last safe haven. This place is built like a fortress, couldn't be brought down, but because of that, the Ukrainians pounded it daily. This was crucial for the ongoing battle. It prevented the Russians from hiding and massing troops in the area. Surrounded and cut off, the Russian troops had to scrounge for food. Their comrades tried sending supplies via drones, but it wasn't enough. The Ukrainian commander thought no need for a frontal assault. Let's just see how long they can hold out. The Russians inside were starving and dodging bombs from above. Eventually, they couldn't take it anymore, and the Ukrainians captured the aggregate plant in one fell swoop. Taking this spot thrilled the Ukrainians. It's one of the last remaining high rises in Vovchansk. From this vantage point, they can see far, thus can exert control over North Vovchansk. Every move the Russians make is under their watchful eyes. So, shells, bombs, drones, you name it, are all unleashed. Russian positions north of the aggregate plant and west of the demolished citadel were hit so hard they couldn't fight back. They retreated several blocks, scrambling into the northern forests of the city. But autumn has arrived, leaves are falling, and Ukrainian drones easily spot them, offering a warm welcome with incendiary bombs. The moment the Russians show themselves, they're blanketed with artillery fire. Organizing even squad-level attacks is impossible. At this rate, the Russian forces in Vovchansk might just be calling it quits. Chasiv Yar, Ukrainian drone pilots fought wild. Chasiv Yar's strategic stronghold and a pivotal point in Ukraine's eastern defense line. Its steadfast resilience against relentless enemy assaults is largely thanks to the heroic efforts of the drone team known as Clear Eyes Yasiachi. Part of the 23rd Mechanized Brigade, this team embarks on nightly missions as darkness falls, racing against death itself. Leading them is Yuri Volkov, a former successful entrepreneur in digital marketing and corporate management consulting. When the full-scale invasion disrupted his civilian life, he didn't back down. Instead, he transformed his crisis management and logistical planning skills into battlefield assets, precisely coordinating a drone team of nearly 150 people to ensure efficient operations in high-risk environments. Serhiy, codenamed Fly, is the team's nighttime drone bombing expert. As the sun sets, he and his teammates begin their intense preparations. They load bombs and feed drones onto vehicles while drivers check to ensure everything runs smoothly. Anton, the supply chain commander, and once a grocery store owner, now handles all logistical support, making sure fuel, supplies, and equipment are fully stocked. Under the cover of darkness, frontline journalists accompany the drone pilots to their positions. Soldiers monitor Russian drone movements via radio with jammers at the ready. The pilots know these jammers aren't foolproof. Russian drones could be using different frequencies, and their vehicles are always at risk of detection. They all switch their phones to airplane mode. Upon arrival, the pilots quickly unload their gear as the drivers promptly depart. To avoid exposure, they must dig their own shelters, a risky task under the watchful eyes of enemy drones, but they have no choice. Inside the shelters, they connect generators and activate the Starlink system to maintain communication with headquarters and other units. They set up laptops and tablets, using Xbox controllers to operate the drones. Sipping energy drinks and smoking cigarettes, they remain on high alert. After receiving confirmation from command, they deploy reconnaissance drones. Alexander operates the German-made Vector drone, equipped with powerful long-range flight capabilities and zoom functions, able to penetrate deep behind enemy lines to scout Russian deployments. Through the drone's lens, the silhouette of Bakhmut emerges. Once bustling streets now lie in ruins, every building reduced to rubble. Russian vehicles move swiftly among the debris, using ATVs and motorcycles to evade Ukrainian drone reconnaissance. But the Clear Eyes team monitors their every move, relaying crucial intelligence back to headquarters. Suddenly, artillery fire erupts around Ukrainian positions. A Ukrainian tank approaches and fires at the enemy. Immediately, 8 Russian drones hover overhead, one buzzing directly above. The pilots exchange glances, holding their breath. They know that by staying calm and avoiding detection by heat signatures, they have a chance of survival. Time seems to stand still. Eventually, the Russian drone moves away, allowing the pilot to continue their mission. At dawn, the pilots swiftly pack up and call for pickup. Back at base, they sleep during the day, preparing for the next night's operation. This cycle repeats daily. The pilots understand that each mission could be their last, but they proceed without hesitation for the safety of their country. Finally, these frontline pilots shared with accompanying journalists that Ukraine urgently needs more air defense systems, F-16 fighters, and additional weaponry. With this support, they believe victory will ultimately belong to Ukraine. That's all for today's special report. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to stay updated with our coverage. And remember to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.